Welcome, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Forgot to Save podcast, the twice-monthly gaming podcast where we go back and play the games we always wanted to, but never got a chance to, with you, the listener. I'm Stone, and joining me again this month is my brother, Regan.
Good day.
Okay, no. I'm just kidding. And if you aren't already listening on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, you can find us on any of those platforms. Now, barring just a terrible intro by you, you ruined it in 2 words.
Is that too British? Was that going back to our roots too much?
No, I don't think. The thing is, it wasn't British enough to be considered British, and then you were too far from it being like American for it to be. It's almost in the vein of mockery.
Okay, it's good to know.
Anyway, we have a lot to talk about because we have a free game this month too. Free game and Beyond Good and Evil. Let's start out by telling them what the free game was. Regan, what was it?
It was Brawlhalla.
Mm-hmm.
Brawlhalla. I don't know.
Brawlhalla.
Whatever the German pronunciation is.
I don't think that's German, but what do I know? And
whatever the original European pronunciation is.
Somewhere in Europe. And for those of you that do not know, Brawlhalla is obviously a free game. It's available on Windows, Mac, and PS4, but no word on an Xbox release that I saw yet. It actually just came out in October worldwide, and it is a 2D fighting game, but it's more like a platform kind of fighter, like Super Smash Brothers. Mm-hmm. It is, free online play. It is available. I downloaded it on Steam, but I played it on PS4. Is it correct to say that you played it on PS4 as well?
I did.
Yeah. And there are a few competitive modes like free-for-all, 2v2. They even have a test server that you can play on for the newest beta versions of the game. You can play kind of new content before it's released, which I think is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But they also, I believe they have a ranked mode. I just haven't gotten far enough to unlock it yet. Do you know if that's the case?
I have no idea. I didn't really make much progression in it.
Okay.
Because I didn't really play online all that much.
That's fine. I mean, there is a currency that it looks like you can
I know that much
from a ranked mode. So I'm assuming it's in there. But okay, so let's get right into it. How much of it do you think you played?
I played for like a few hours at a time because I had a couple PlayStation sessions with some friends, so it was more like just a local, like as you would treat Smash Brothers for the most part. I just played, on the couch with some friends, so I can't say I really got into the meat of it.
So you were playing a local custom game then, right? Not online?
Mm-hmm. No. I think I did like 2 online ranked matches.
Well, I'm saying because you could queue with a friend and do 2v2.
Yeah. But no, I just did custom.
So since you were playing offline, you had every character available to you. Is that correct?
That is incorrect. You have to unlock them for offline play.
Oh,
so we had the initial, 4, I think?
I believe there are 6 free characters a week. And it changes every week, the ones available to you.
Oh, okay.
So every character has a set of levels, and then you can level up different stances to alter their stats, different colors to play as.
Different.
As
far as I could see, it was just mostly just visual stuff, like different color palettes and whatnot.
The stances are really helpful because that can change your gameplay with certain characters.
Oh, okay. See, that I did not realize how in depth this game was. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't, it sounds like you didn't really get the full experience.
Well, because as far as you told me about, because you're like, hey, we should do Brawlhalla. It's like a Smash game, so I was like, okay, so it's just gonna be, there'll probably be some online, fighting, but otherwise you just, just play like you would Smash on the couch with friends, and that's all I really got into it.
Yeah. So. Okay, so you went into it expecting Smash, so speak to that a little bit. What were you upset by? What did you like in terms of that comparison?
It's a solid game overall. The controls aren't, super... it's very simple. You have an attack button, and only, one sort of like a smash attack where it's automatically just a stronger, so...
Right, a quick and
if you
a
hold
heavy.
it down... Yeah, yeah. So you can do small combos with your quick attack and with your heavy attack. It's just very simple. Smash one way, smash the other, and you can pick the direction. So it's the gameplay itself is very simple. I do like the because in Smash Brothers generally if you're going to do ranked, it's kind of or if you're playing competitively with your friends, it's kind of taboo to use any sort of items. But in this game, there's more of a reliance on items. I mean, you can fight without them, but they appear often enough, and they actually help you substantially because depending on the character, it can give you more range. The attacks are stronger. How far you launch someone is a bit better.
Right. So let me expand on that quick.
Okay.
When you're speaking about items, this game is very heavily dependent on your weapons. Every character has 2 weapons available to them, and they can fight unarmed. Now, there's a separate category of items. If you're doing a Smash equivalent, they're called gadgets. It's stuff like bombs, mines. There's a spiked ball that has increased knockback that you could throw at people. And even when that's disabled, weapons are still available because weapons are actually what make your character unique, not necessarily the character themselves.
Yeah, because if you're going without weapons, just going barehanded, I'm pretty sure all the combos are pretty much the same.
Every character is exactly the same unarmed.
Yeah, yeah.
Besides their stats.
So yeah, I just kind of like the. I don't know that it's total reliance on your weaponry, but I do like how it there's more of a necessity for that as opposed to just doing fancy combos that are dependent on each character. So it kind of levels the playing field almost if you don't have fear, if multiple people don't have weapons, and even if somebody does get one sooner than anybody else, it's not a a guaranteed victory for that person. So it balances. I think the balance of the game is decent considering a lot of Smash games and clones of the sort generally can be quite unbalanced, and you get tier lists and whatnot. So I feel like it does a little better job than that, only because it's a little more simplistic.
Right. So I don't. There. Sorry, I've played a little bit more than you have, and online, so I've seen a lot more of the characters than were available to you.
Right.
And I can say that there is a tier list to the characters.
I would imagine. I mean, that's the case with any fighting game.
No game is perfectly balanced,
Mm.
but they know which characters are more powerful than others. I feel like it's really well balanced, but in order to obtain those characters with gold, the ones that are more powerful are clearly more expensive.
Right.
There's a character that I became really fond of, Mirage, for one-on-one. She used a scythe and a spear, and I really liked her. So I saved up gold and bought her. It was 5,400. Well, when I started using her in free-for-all, I was getting dominated because it's more of a 1v1 or 2v2 character. Mm-hmm. So I had to save up and buy another one. Well, the second character I was looking at cost 3,400. So
right.
About 2,000 gold less because they are 2 different tier characters. But the game is aware of that, and I think balances it really nicely.
Yeah, the one, just the free characters that were available the week, the one major one I was playing was, I can't think of the character's name, but he's like a gangster sort of looking dude, like an old style mobster.
Cross.
Yes, Cross. He uses the revolvers and the gauntlets.
Yeah.
And while the gauntlets were good and well and all, I did really like the revolvers because it did add just a little bit more range. It kind of reminded me of Duck Hunt. Because you
from Smash.
Yeah,
okay.
From Smash. not the NES title.
I was like trying to put it together in my head, like how is this like Duck Hunt?
Yeah, because anytime you would do Smash attacks as Duck Hunt, a little reticle would come up at the end, and it just give you that tiny bit more range that people may not have been expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So the hitbox of his attacks were just a little bit farther than where his revolver ended. Which was nice, but also a lot of his attacks were, multi-hits, and especially his air combos his air attacks got some good range to them. So
Yeah,
I
Cross
just
is
kind of
very much a combo character, and it's cool that every character kind of has their niche in this, and everybody can really gravitate toward one of them. To kind of share my experience, I played this a lot. I don't know how many hours, but I've been logging daily,
yeah.
and playing with people online because, friends and former guests of the podcast, Casey and Adam, who you've never talked to, but they have been playing and streaming it. And when they stream, they, kind of open up the floodgates for everyone to join them. I've joined. The game allows for up to 8 people in a lobby, and it's a phenomenal amount of fun. Whether we're playing free-for-all, which I'm terrible at, or teams, which I'm significantly better at than free-for-all, it's still really fun, and you get so much experience. You can level up your characters really quickly. You can all get gold and help each other unlock new characters just by beating the crap out of each other.
Okay.
It's really well balanced so that people that were playing with only the free characters available, and I know, I believe KC was the only one out of us that had paid for any content in the game. And even though he had way more characters to choose from, things were never really skewed
Unfair.
in his favor.
Right.
I never felt like because he paid, he had a clear advantage. In fact, I was using only free characters at that time because I believe when we did the biggest one, I only had the free characters available to me, and that is actually where I found my main. And I've had a few sessions where there's at least 4 of us, people that I know from the Discord, jumping on there, playing together. And it's really phenomenally well balanced, and trying to level up different characters really gives you incentives to work for with all of them so that you're not just spamming the same character over and over again. Because when you have one person doing the same thing and they're better than you, it doesn't really make it fun for a lot of other people. So everybody could jump in, play a bunch of different characters, try out all the free characters that week, see if they want to use that character, see if they want to unlock it down the road. I've played enough that I have gathered up enough gold to get kind of one character from every tier. Kind of the lowest tier, I think, is 2,300 gold. The next tier up is 3,400 gold. And then the top tier is 5,400. And I have a character from every tier. It takes a few hours to unlock, and the amount of gold you get per match is dependent on how well you perform in that match, and that isn't necessarily getting the MVP, being the last one alive, and getting the most kills. It's also dependent on the amount of damage you do. So, for example, I was playing on teams with Adam a lot. We did a lot of 2v2 together, and he plays a heavier character that would usually get all the finishing blows. But I would play a character that could combo a lot, and I could rack up a lot of damage, and we were seeing similar amounts of experience. So even though he was getting the kills and I was doing the damage, we still were leveling at the same pace, which was a lot of fun. And then I found unlocking these new stances actually did add a tiny bit more strategy with it. For example, I just said I played Mirage. I found that I was dying very quickly. I unlocked the defensive stance. And what that does is every character is statted differently. You have like damage, knockback, defense, and speed. Yeah. And those are your 4 stats. And when you get a stance, it just allocates 1 point from another stat into the point that stance represents. So I did defensive stance. I believe with the Mirage, it took 1 away from my knockback and threw it in my defense. That doesn't seem like a ton, but it does make a difference for me. And it helps me a lot in team play. So getting to not only find your main character, but also tweak those little stances within it, and even just something as silly as like unlocking a color that you want to continue to play as is a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, I am in love with this game. I think it's almost a perfect free game. My only real complaint, this isn't a complaint. Games load very, very quickly. It's not hard to find a game at all. Yeah. I think the controls work well with what they have. Obviously, it's hard for me to get used to a platform fighting game like Smash that isn't played on a GameCube controller, but the controls make sense on the PS4. I really like unlocking these different characters. The levels are beautiful. The levels are so good, so well balanced. There's enough space for everything. There's one or two where I'm really not a fan of, but they never feel really unfair. And there's no obstacles where I'm like, can we just get rid of this, please? So yeah, I have a ton of praise for it. The one real complaint I have is some of the cosmetic stuff you can unlock is exclusive to people who pay for it. It would be nice, like I can work up and unlock all these characters. I also want to get stuff for those characters. So it would be nice to be able to pay for the cosmetics just by playing the game, not with real money. And a minor complaint, and this is just because I'm bad at it. It's not anything that really needs change in the game. But I have a hard time dodging because in Smash you click and you hold for a shield and you hit either direction to roll. Well, in this one there's kind of like the wave dash element in Melee, but it's instant. Like you hit that button and you are guarding for like that 3-frame window and that's it.
The few matches I did play online, I noticed, maybe it's just because I was low level as well. I only got up a few levels. But no one was dodging at all, and I feel like that's probably just, higher level people would be doing that more often.
Yeah, this game, when you're trying to get a feel for it, I found, as somebody that dodges a lot in Smash, not really doing it. And the people I was playing with wasn't really the case. There were people who were like stream sniping, and then would come in and be significantly better than everyone, and you would see the real skill gap when they start using that dodge, how different they are. But what I will say is the recovery in this game is A+2. You have a combination of like 4 aerial movements. Like you can jump 3 times and then use your upward special once or twice.
And you can use it. You can essentially reset your entire jump cycle if you do a wall jump at all.
Yeah. And people will also throw in that dash. I know I've been talking about Adam. He's really good at those recoveries. And I actually learned a lot from being on the same team as him and watching him get tossed off the level. He can work in those dodges really well. So I'm like, oh man, I want to get to that. So, I mean, unlike Smash where it's like, I have to be better than everyone. I have to beat everyone. In this, it's like, well, I just want to level up. So I'm not mad that I lost this round. And matches are so fast, I get in, I queue up for it. It loads almost immediately. The round takes 2.5, maybe 3 minutes. If you're doing, 1v1, if you, I'd say for every character you add, it's probably going to add 1.5 minutes. So it's relatively quick. And then just like the pace of the game, your combos are quick. They don't go on too long. The finishes are quick. I mean, the game just like happens. So if you lose, it's not so bad to be like, okay, another one. It doesn't give you time to be mad if you're losing because you're still getting something from it.
Right.
So,
I have to say my only big gripe with it is I wasn't a huge fan of the art style. I mean, it's not bad by any means, and like it's a lot of vibrant color, and the characters are designed really cool. But I don't know, it's just like that sort of. Obviously, it's a free independent game. They're only going to put so much into it.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of that like not really polished cartoony look.
Yeah, so the animation bugged me at first, but I was able to get over it pretty quickly. Also, it only really bothers me on the character select screen. When you get in game, you don't tend to notice it as much. And again, it happens so fast that
incredibly fast paced. It's not so much of an issue, but
so let's not dwell. Brawlhalla.
I'd recommend it, especially if people do like Smash games, and it's been a while since a new Smash game has come out, and you just want something familiar but kind of new, just to change it up a little bit. I definitely suggest it. And it's just a fun game to play with people in any capacity, really.
Yeah, and it brings you back for quick matches. You have one challenge a day. You finish that challenge, you get like 150 gold. You move on, Yeah. You get a log.
At no point, because usually if I'm going to play games online or with people, chances are I'm going to be sinking like an hour or two, into this. With that game, just what I did play from it, it was like, oh, let me do a match because, it's going to take all of 2-3 minutes, and then I can go about my day.
You could play this in 15-minute spurts and feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final verdict. You would recommend? Are you going to continue to play?
Probably not, just because I have a lot of other games right now that I've gotten that I want to get off my playthrough checklist.
Oh, okay. Well, I
But I
recommend, and I'm going to get you to play more because I've been having a
that's
blast, and I've been having a blast playing with people.
yeah,
And
that's exactly what I was gonna say. If I'm ever if our schedules ever match up, I will happily play online with you guys.
absolutely. So Brawlhalla, go out, get it. Mac, Windows, PS4. Sorry, Xbox, but it is really worth it if you have any of those systems. And I haven't played it on PC yet, but it seems relatively low spec, so you could play it with a decent laptop even. But all right, that's all we have to say for Brawlhalla because we're moving on to the main game for this month, Beyond Good and Evil, a game that we had no past experience or bias towards. So this is kind of brand new to both of us. So let's start out with the same question as always. How much have you played?
I believe I've gone like 4.5 hours in, so I honestly have no idea, like, in the grand scope of progression how far I've gotten, but I've played a good bit already.
Yeah, I also am about 4 hours, so I think we're right about at the same place.
Maybe depending on how much exploring you've done.
Right, right. I well, let's no spoilers, but let's get. Have you done like the first kind of dungeon?
Which one would that be? Like
The first
when you
mission, really.
when you go to like the Black Isle and there's the guy contracting you for the job?
Yeah.
Yes, I have done that.
Okay, yeah. So after that, you go back to the pedestrian district. I explored those secrets, and that's when I called it.
Oh, okay. So I'm not too much further than you.
Right. I was worried about going too far. Because that's almost what happened when I played Titanfall. I had to stop because I found out there were only 2 levels left. So I didn't want... I was like, 4 hours. If this is only an 8-hour game, I don't want to like go over too much, so there's nothing to talk about in the second half.
Right.
So I had to pull myself away from it. So far, let's break it down point by point. Your impression of the characters so far, because there's a few major ones and a handful of minor characters. The first and the biggest one we have is Jade, our main character. So what are your thoughts on Jade?
I like her. I mean, she kind of fits into just like a person. There aren't really too many defining features, I guess, in her character design that like make her stand out among like other protagonists. So she's kind of like an everyman's hero, I guess. But I mean, I like her. She's just she's not too obnoxious, but there's nothing super that makes her stand out like above a lot, though.
Yeah, Jade is
She's just kind of in the game. I feel like they could have switched her out for any other character, and it wouldn't have made a huge difference.
Well, I mean, so far I'm really a fan of her. She is kind of more the strong silent right now. She does have an occasional quip, but there seems to be, some kind of personality building at this point. She's motivated. She wants to help others. There are these traits that are in her, and they're revealing slowly, which I think is a really good choice. I'm very much fond of Jade as a main character. And also, I got, in the beginning, kind of a Lara Croft feel. Like, a little fearless, do what's necessary kind of thing. And yeah, I really do like her. There's not a lot to say about her right now. I'm hoping that changes. But I'm pretty thrilled with the main character. And then you have Uncle Page. Now, for those of you that aren't really familiar with Beyond Good and Evil, I don't know if I want to call it a sci-fi. Would you?
I mean, it has sci-fi elements,
right?
But the game itself looks kind of like European to me.
What?
Like
I don't know
with
what
the
that's
set
supposed
pieces
to mean.
and whatnot.
But I got a kind of a Star Wars feel, right? You are on the planet Hillis, and you are being attacked by these aliens every now and then. They just come and go.
They do.
Called
it's
the
very
Doms.
frequent.
Yeah, and they are like very clearly aliens. They're like more creature-like, kind of insectoid. And you live on a planet of, I mean, there's humans mixed with like sentient animals. There's walruses, there's pigs, which is Paige, one of the main characters. Gorillas, rhinos, like they're all sentient, upright walking animals. So the lore isn't super creative, but it fits really well, and they continue to work in a world where this is normal. So you're never left second guessing it, you know?
Yeah.
When you
Yeah,
see
they're all
a walrus walking around, you're not like, what's that walrus doing? You're like, oh, okay, there's another citizen.
Yeah, he's a shopkeeper. He's just an NPC.
Right.
And anything that obviously would be considered. Any of the characters that you kind of see around towns are all, yes, they're animals, but they're anthropomorphic, which kind of helps distinguish between, like, you know, when you're in the dungeons, it's very obviously the enemies are more animalistic and, like, you know,
they look insectoid mostly.
Yeah. I would say the enemies that, like, the designs themselves kind of remind me of like Alien and that sort of, you know, they're just very detailed and gross looking. Yeah,
and so Paige is one of the main characters. He's your uncle, and you, as Jade and Paige, kind of run this orphanage out of a lighthouse that is, in the beginning of the game, attacked by these alien, the Doms, and you protect them. And that kind of leads you into the fact that there's a conspiracy going around. The Doms, that are these evil aliens, are being fought off by the good guys, which are the Alpha Sector.
Mm-hmm.
And there are conspiracies, you know, when you're talking to different pedestrians that are like, you know, the Alpha Sector is actually controlled by the Doms, and there's this group of rebels, which made me think of Star Wars, called the Iris, that are trying to expose this conspiracy.
Yeah.
So
the Alpha Sector is more the quote unquote good guys, because, like, right in the beginning when you get a feel of Paige's personality, because after the intro cutscene, I mean, it throws you right into combat, and once you deal with that, you know, a newscaster is like, what would you say about the Alpha Sector coming to help you out? And Paige is like, yeah, I wouldn't exactly call you a speeding bullet.
Yeah.
You kind of came when the fight was over. We did all the work here.
And it was cool. I thought they were going to, like, censor that. And then when you're listening to the radio later, you hear his full interview, and they're like, well, okay, that's cool that he put it out there.
Yeah, they cut it off right after I wouldn't call you guys a speeding bullet. So they did censor it a bit, but not, you know, it got the main point across still.
So Paige is a little sassy. He's kind of the tech expert, more or less.
He's somewhat of definitely a skeptic,
right?
I would say.
But he's good-natured. He's a go-getter, I think. So that helps build up Jade. He doesn't often say, like, no, that's not a good idea, or we shouldn't do this. He's like, here's my opinion. But it's nice to have a companion NPC that isn't like, no, you're the player, don't do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's easy to set that up in a video game for the sake of putting the story above the gameplay.
Yeah, and just to keep you on track doing specific things.
Right. The balance between Uncle Paige and Jade is so well struck that I feel like it enhances the gameplay. You know, he's never going to tell you not to do something. He'll air his grievances, but ultimately not try to stop you or hinder you in any way. And once you make your decision, he sticks to it. And I know that that's just based in the story, but then that kind of translates to the NPC going and doing things. You know, he doesn't ever say some stupid line of combat when it starts up to, you know, I'm trying to say, like, in some games when you start an encounter, you'll have an NPC alongside you. If it's an action RPG, they'll, like, pull out their weapon and say a stupid line. Well, there's, like, a loading time for the AI to do what it's going to do. That never happens in this game, and that kind of, in my head, adds to Paige's personality of somebody there to help you.
And, I mean, he does give a little quip, but it's not like a corny line. It's just, you know, let me know what I can do for you or something like that. It's just a very quick... it reinforces that his character is, you know, there to help you on your quest, whatever it is you're trying to do. Yeah,
because clearly he's older than Jade. He wants to protect Jade, but given that Jade is the main character of this game, it's cool that he plays, like, a supporting role. Like, I will be here for you, but I won't hinder you. It's really cool. The AI in this game, I think, works really well. And I support that because whenever you are doing a task or tell them to do a task, they will move out of your way or ask you to move out of theirs.
Slowly, very slowly.
Really? I didn't experience that. It was pretty quickly for me.
I'd like run down some hallway and he'd just stand there behind me. I'm like, just move out of the way. Just move.
No,
and it would take a minute.
The second I would turn around, the AI would start to move a little bit in anticipation of it. And then when you move in their direction and when you touch them, they'll say something like, "Oh, sorry," or like, "I'll get out of the way," and then like are moving while they're saying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's one part at the beginning of kind of the first mission you get, where there's a really confined space and you had to have Paige move in to knock down this grate. And I had clicked for him to do that action, not thinking that I was blocking the way. So I started to back out in a place where there's already tight walls and is really hard to maneuver with two characters. And almost instantly, like, the AI let me by so he could get in.
Yeah. It's not like one of those things where it's entirely on you to move out of your way. So you,
right. Or you run in opposite directions to you clip and the physics put you behind them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does give you... they definitely gave you some leeway and, like, you know...
I think the AI is really well programmed in this game.
Considering, 2003 came out...
oh, yeah.
It's very good for its age.
So I'll say this ahead of time and I'll elaborate on it later, but... when I'm playing it, the only thing that leads me to believe this game took place in 2003 was the graphics.
Yeah, you got me the Steam version, and I adamantly refused to play with a mouse and keyboard because if a game came out on a console and then you ported it to PC and don't have controller support, that's just lazy development to me.
Okay.
But anyway, so I turned it on, saw you had to do that, and there was no other way I could play with the controller. And immediately after closing 1 minute of gameplay, I bought the PS2 version. So I've been playing the PS2 version.
Oh, very cool.
I will say, just from what I did see in the opening cutscene and the initial battle that you fight, obviously the PC version, it is slightly in HD. The textures and whatnot are updated.
Right.
But otherwise, even on PS2, it is one of the smoothest PS2 games I've ever seen.
That's great.
Not that, PS2 was, not many games really pushed it to its limit. But I don't honestly remember any PS2 game where, like, now obviously the frame rate drops more than I'd like it to, just because, sometimes when you're in the city, in the pedestrian district, what have you,
right,
there could be a lot of things around, so that makes it drop a bit. But when you're in smaller areas, or just in a cave and there aren't any enemies around, it is surprisingly, it's probably like 40 FPS, and I don't think I've ever seen that on a PS2 game. So I was pleasantly surprised by that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because I'm playing the Steam port. I was like, I will use Input Mapper and turn these keyboard controls into a controller. And then I was like, well, let me just try it for a little bit. And I got sucked into the game so much. I've been playing with a mouse and keyboard and forgetting that I'm playing with a mouse and keyboard. Mm-hmm. It's really fantastic. But in terms of its performance, and we won't follow it down this rabbit hole, but I likened it mostly to Jak and Daxter.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to that.
Yeah.
Jak and Daxter, with some Pokemon Snap elements.
Yeah, so that's another thing I want to talk about, because... though the story, I feel, borrows from Star Wars, it's still a really cool original story, in my opinion, from what I know of it so far. There are some really unique gameplay elements, and that this is kind of an adventure. I'm hesitant to call it an RPG, but it's a very story-driven adventure game. And it has a lot of really unique elements, the biggest of which is kind of... this does have combat in it, but it's more focused on you taking pictures.
I would say she's like an adventuring investigative reporter.
Right, exactly.
Would be my...
If April O'Neil from Ninja Turtles had a game, this would be it. You're traveling around with like a large accurate combat animal, and you're going around taking pictures and trying to find out the real scoop. I'm just realizing that Jade is April O'Neil. If there was like a mod to put her in like a yellow jumpsuit, it'd be perfect.
And say the word story every other sentence. Yeah. I gotta get my story.
But it's really cool. you get kind of, it feels like a side quest, but I treat it as the main quest, is to catalog all the species on Hillis.
Yes.
And you do that just by taking a picture and making sure, it's in the right framing and everything. So there's sometimes you have to adjust your zoom and everything. But you catalog all these species, you send it off to the scientists, they pay you, and you can get different upgrades when you finish your roll of film and submit it. I found it really, really fun to explore those different species, and also the world you're in, it fits so well with all these different like sentient animals that sometimes you forget they're different species, and sometimes I was forgetting to take pictures of like NPCs and submit it.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's not just like wherein, like Pokemon Snap, you have to find Pokemon and take pictures of them, because obviously it's the only interesting thing in the world. Where it's just, the entire game, you can just take pictures at any time of anything that includes NPCs, that includes enemies, bugs, like sort of like living plants, like they're, some like amoeba and mushrooms and
right.
So it's very interesting because, any game where like photo taking is sort of like the main scope of it, which honestly I couldn't name.
Yeah, it usually has
like
Barbie
the current
in the
generation.
Title. Yeah,
what?
It usually has Barbie in the title.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for a game where the main focus, which is, as you said, they kind of give it like a side quest thing just because you can do it throughout the whole game. But it is really more of the main focus because that's your main way of getting money. And it's very easy to get money even early on because like all the kids in your orphanage, a bunch of them are different species. So
right.
You have to get pictures of them. As soon as you go into the town, there's a few more species you get. All of the enemies in the first dungeon. And as you mentioned, I was forgetting to take pictures of things because you just get lost in like, it's just it's a very good game.
Yeah,
and I was pleasantly surprised.
So I forgot to take pictures of Uncle Page until I pulled out my camera and he happened to be standing in front of me, and he turns to your camera and waves.
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah,
when I'm trying to get a picture of something, because like enemies, a lot of times when you meet a new one, it throws you into the situation where you're battling it like immediately, so you have to run off. But then he's either in the way, or if I want to take a picture of something, he'll walk up and wave. I'm like, get out of the frame, because it just targets him then.
I feel like kind of a speedrunner sometimes. So like a situation will come up where there'll be this boss or mini boss, and it just start out camera, take it quick, and then like send it off. Okay, then we can do the fight. Like,
yeah,
I feel like
I think
can do those
I may
so
have missed one like altogether in the game because when you're first on the hovercraft out on the water, there's that giant like serpent insect thing that one of the stronger Dom boss monsters.
Yeah.
I didn't even think, because that was like the first time you're on the hovercraft.
Oh, I didn't
like,
take
at
that
all.
either.
I did not take a picture of that, and I didn't realize till after the fight it gives you an option, because there are like some fish that are jumping around.
Yeah.
Like almost immediately after, and they're like, "Oh, quickly take a picture! It's a rare species or whatever."
I thought I couldn't access my camera.
Yeah, because I figured you're on a boat. Why would you be taking pictures while you're driving a boat? And then you can. So at any point you can take pictures. That's how important it is to the. I would say it's definitely a core gameplay element.
Yeah,
for sure.
And the thing is, when you start out, taking pictures is a big deal, but obviously you're vulnerable at that time. But you never feel helpless, which is really cool. You never feel like taking pictures is a hindrance to you in any way, or at least I never did.
Because it's very quick. It's not like it needs to really load anything. It's just very quick in and out.
Yeah. And then you get a weapon in kind of the first dungeon, quote unquote, and it allows you to fire while you're using your camera. It's kind of like the secondary function in your camera. It's this glove, and you throw off kind of like a ninja star. So you don't really feel helpless in the beginning, and it's not really a hindrance because some of the obstacles come at you pretty slowly when you need to take a picture. But later, when it would be, you can then defend yourself still. So they do a really fantastic job balancing the photo taking. And I mean, obviously, it's an integral part of this game. If you look at the cover art, she's holding the camera. I mean, it's a big deal. And it never, ever, ever, I feel, takes away from the gameplay. No matter how, I think it's really seamless it is.
And
Go ahead.
In most games that would be like the action adventure or like an RPG sort of game. Going through dungeons, you want to look for like every treasure chest and every, just every possible thing you can pick up. It's in this game, it's not so much finding treasure. I mean, you can find like more money, or like maybe a pearl or two, because pearl is like the more rare type
It's the
of
second currency. Yeah.
Yeah, that you upgrade any stuff on your hovercraft with. But the extra things that you find in these dungeons are pretty much anything you can take a picture of. And in fact, on your map, you eventually can buy sensors that pick up the two important things, pearls and more animals that you can take pictures of, which is, I, I, it's just really cool. Instead of, I've never been excited to snap a picture of
To do a
anything
side
in a
quest.
game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a phenomenal job balancing that. So yeah, one thing I do want to talk about is, in my opinion, how seamless it is from cutscene to gameplay. There's almost no load times, if you ask me. I mean, right in the beginning, had I not been messing with the keyboard anyway, I might not have known that we're switching to gameplay here. They use the same set of graphics for cutscenes as they do for gameplay. So there's not really that black screen that kind of changes it. It just happens. So I feel like all the cutscenes are running in-engine.
Yeah.
And that really adds to it. The other thing, I don't know if you know this, but I play in 4K. I also was using the Steam Link for some of it, so I was playing in 1080. And a lot of times with older games, when you play on the Steam HD versions, this is especially prevalent in Psychonauts that we just played, but you can tell when there's a cutscene because it's really pixelated, and it's, it was made in like 480p and clearly just stretched up.
In a 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah. But in this game, none of that. I don't know, it's really, either they did a fantastic job with the HD remake, or all of the cutscenes are running in-engine, and very, very seamlessly, if you ask me.
On the Steam version that you're playing, the screen itself, is there like a black box around it, or does it take up the whole screen?
It takes the whole screen.
Because I don't know if that's a conscious choice made for the PS2 version, or that's just because the PS4, it runs PS2 games. However, that may just be it. But honestly, it looks like a movie, because when the game starts up, and just when it's running in general, there's like that sort of smaller black box. It's the image of the the game is a little smaller, just because there's the black sort of the frame around it.
Yeah.
And I quite like it, because obviously, I mean, for a game in 2003 and a PS2 game, the graphics are actually pretty good. And it's somewhat stylized, so it hasn't aged terribly. Obviously they tried to be somewhat cutting edge with it, but at the same time, it doesn't date itself.
Yeah.
Especially with the sci-fi sort of elements and the character designs and whatnot.
The only thing I struggled with, and the only thing that I think maybe dates it, is what the target audience really is. It seems like it's very serious in tone for the most part, and it does a good job of carrying itself so seriously, but then every now and then they'll slip in fart jokes. And I think it could still be geared toward adults, because at this time it's like, guys, farts are still universally funny. We can still do this,
I will say that as far as, because I looked into a bit of how this game was received, and while people did love it, it was another cult classic in that everybody who played it loved it, but it was just a commercial failure through a variety of factors. So even then, I feel like it's hard to say who the target audience is, because so few people actually got the game.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it got really good review scores, and I'm very much enjoying this game, so I can see why.
Yeah, no, the game's phenomenal so far, and it's rock solid. Programming wise, the art's still good, the story's really great, the lore is pretty fantastic so far. I mean, it's dead on.
I wanted to mention earlier, because you said that, and I would agree that the cutscenes are pretty much running in the game engine. right amidst the first cutscene, you just get into a battle, so you're getting a feel for combat like immediately. And I was honestly not prepared at all for that.
Yeah.
I was just like, it's a cutscene, it's probably going to take a while. It's not like super long and drawn out like a lot of, because a lot of games, it's just we have to give them the story, and we have to give it to them to a good extent so that way they can pick up on the universe. And this game doesn't really do that to a huge extent in the first cutscene. It gives you a general, like, this is where you are, this is the situation, and this is the character. And that is not much more than that. So it just drops you right in, and within like 10, maybe even 10 minutes, probably not even that long, you're just immediately in the game. And the only reason I could tell was my character model was standing there and it had a little health bar. I'm like, oh, this is the game now. I'm just playing. And it was seamless. Like no like intense frame drop, no like, obvious loading screen, and even going between like the main hub world and then just the little areas and little dungeons, it is not long load times at all.
Yeah, no time, yeah.
So just as far as in the game I've played, I feel like it's going to be a big game as far as, the amount of, it's kind of linear. You get some exploration, but, at a certain point there's only so much you can do given, either if you don't have enough health or, your items, because I find that I use healing items a bit, only because the combat is not super precise. Nor is like the driving the hovercraft just reminds me of Diddy Kong Racing, and the hovercraft's there, and your turning is non-existent. So I find I am using a lot of healing items, and there's just a certain point where I'm like, I can't keep exploring because it's gonna bankrupt me or kill me. But yeah, I mean it's just solid. I don't know how intense this is on the like PlayStation and GameCube and whatnot. I don't know how hard it made those systems work, but it's not like mine's loud or like super hot or heating up, and it just plays so seamlessly. They did something with this game, like some sort of black magic. I don't know.
Yeah. No, this game, like, technologically, it's way ahead of the pack in 2003.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of maybe Final Fantasy X, which came out, I think, right at the same time, I don't think there's any game to my knowledge that really got the same scope. I mean, maybe Jak and Daxter, but that wasn't. It was, the world in that game wasn't huge, and Beyond Good and Evil just seems like a really big game to me. Because even the hovercraft that I have so far, it's just still on land, but you can, if you get up enough pearls, you can then go into space. So I don't know, like, to what extent you can eventually like explore space or what have you. But
right.
I mean, it must be. The game is surprisingly large as I can see it right now.
Yeah, so, I mean, the world, there's a difference. Like, when I think sense of scale around this time, I think Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Mm-hmm. Which I did not play, so I don't have any basis for that.
Right, which is fine. But in this one, it feels different than Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I know that I can go to multiple planets, and they all have their own areas, but they kind of feel enclosed. With this one, you start out, you walk out of the lighthouse, and you can look around, and there's islands all around. And I feel like, and I don't know for sure, but I feel like I can go to those different islands. They're fleshed out well. In games like this, you can tell when something in the distance is a set piece, because it's 2D and part of the skybox, or it's not fleshed out. It's just like an abstract shape. These look fleshed out. It looks like you can go to all these different places. And it really excites me. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like I'm, if not already at half the game, I'm close.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to feel boxed in, because right now I don't feel that way. I feel like there's a lot to explore, and the world seems really large and like there's more for me to get to. And you're right. I do hope that eventually there's space travel and we can see other planets, because they talk about other planets.
And just like I mentioned in the one shop where you use the pearls to upgrade your hovercraft, the first time I went in there, I just went straight to the back, like, how much do I need to get the best stuff? And straight to the back, there's an engine that allows you to go to space, and it's some extremely high amount of pearls. But I was like,
there it is.
So that was like, oh, okay, so this game is a lot bigger than I'd imagined, because even as far as I am, I'm in like I guess the second major dungeon, but there are a lot of caverns you can go in just for little like side quests, just to get more pearls. There are racing modes you can play. Just finding all the pictures of animals, be that on the main map, in caverns. It seems like they went for a lot in this game. I don't know that it necessarily masters anything it went for, but it's definitely a very good jack of all trades.
Yeah, I would say that so far from my knowledge, it's hit every mark it went for.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing feels like it was halfway done. My concern with space travel, and I had this concern at the beginning, just knowing that's an older game, is that, like, what if you get this item for space travel, you travel, and it's only to take you to, like, the Dom's planet for the final boss. And
right.
that's that.
Either
that is where my concern is.
That, or it doesn't have the same exploration that you can do in your hovercraft, where it's just you just choose the destination you go to, and there might be a few to pick from. But even if that is the case, I wouldn't be too disappointed.
No, because it's just KOTOR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that, or I mean, just with how much they give you in the on Hillis, the planet you are now, I mean, I wouldn't be super. I feel like if they could made space even bigger, it almost might tire me out, depending on how. I mean, I very much like the game, and I look forward to exploring in it, but that's not to say I'm going to be the same way in another 4 or 5 hours.
Right. Yeah, I'm loving the game so far. I look forward to so much more of it. The characters are great. The story is really involved. I love the world. I want to explore more. I want to see more of it. And I'm hoping that so far I haven't had to temper my expectations for this being an older game. I hope I can continue to do that. Because honestly, this game's programming is probably better than 9 out of the 10 AAA titles we've gotten this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds like hyperbole, but I genuinely believe that. This one's stitched up pretty tight.
It is. Honestly, the only major gripe I have about any sort of thing in it is the camera is just not great. It's not like absolutely terrible, but I don't know if it's, with a mouse I feel like it might be a little quicker, but moving the camera, panning it around is very slow. You can't really pan the camera around when you're in the hovercraft, which can be a pain. If you want to snap the camera behind you using the button, it takes a second for you to your controls to orient them to what direction you're going. So that the camera could definitely use some work, but it's not so terrible that it makes the game bad. I mean, it's very easy to work with. The controls are surprisingly good because I feel like, going back to older games, I always get the sense of the controls are probably going to be loose, and I'm not going to like it on that basis, but it has surprised me only because it's not super fast-paced that you need, like, super tight controls, and it's not so slow that, like, it's a hindrance,
Right.
With how the controls are. So I have to say I'm very, very well loving it and surprised at how well they've implemented all the systems that they have so far.
Yeah, if I had to give one of my pleasant surprises as well that I thought would be a grievance before this started is the stealth in this game. Because it's a Ubisoft game, it has to have stealth. I think it's somewhere in their mission statement, that every Ubisoft game ever made has to have stealth in it. The stealth in this game is not bad. I thought I would hate it. I was ready to hate it. There are... In the first dungeon, I think there are too many sections that require it, but is it bad? No. No, absolutely not. It's done well. I haven't had to go back to too many sections and had to go, oh great, stealth again. This is going to be miserable. I haven't, tried and failed 100 times like I do with other stealth games. Mandatory stealth always bothers me. As a player, it always drives me off the wall. But in this one, I'm like, it makes sense for the story. It's what I got to do, and it works.
That, and I think there are two main reasons why the stealth isn't really a hindrance on the game. One, the stealth sections are not that long. It's not like a full mission, like say Assassin's Creed. Obviously, a much more recent example, but there are full-on missions where you just have to follow someone for like 2 minutes straight, just walking or crouching.
So annoying.
In this, if you have to walk slowly or crouch, it is not for long. a minute tops, maybe. So not long sections of stealth, one. And two, if you have to go back through a dungeon in any way that were the section, there were sections of stealth in the dungeon, almost immediately after the stealth section or just further on in the dungeon, there are, it gives you some sort of shortcut that you unlock, like either, making a bridge fall down, opening a new pathway, like those, he gets those bolt cutters so you can cut through gates and go through.
Right. It's Bloodborne.
So it almost immediately like alleviates, so you don't have to go through that painstaking process again. And only on a couple occasions where they're like, you had to like sidle up against the wall, so it doesn't feel super slow in your movement.
Yeah, and that transition to sidling is smooth as well.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of camera cuts, very old school Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have a problem with it because, like you said, with the mouse you can control it pretty quickly. But the controls carry over very nicely. So if you were holding forward and it cuts the camera, you can continue to hold forward and it's going to continue to take you in that direction. Mm-hmm. It doesn't transition until you stop your movement and then move again in that new camera. Right. So even when the camera changes, like you said, it's not a hindrance. And that's really great about the game. The best way I can liken the stealth elements is actually to Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, when
walking
you're
around the courtyard
into the castle for the first time,
mm-hmm.
To try to see the princess, because like there's guards on their scheduled assignments, and it's quick. You can move through it really fast if you just analyze their patterns, and that's it. When you get caught, you get thrown out, and in this, if you get caught, the enemies are phenomenally more powerful than you, but you can run away. You can like break their line of sight, and then they'll be like, okay, well, dispatch, there's nothing here. So yeah, the best way I can liken it is Ocarina of Time style still. Yeah.
Yeah, there's clearly defined, like, if you move outside of this wall and there's an enemy in your direction, it's pretty obvious as to whether they'll see you or not. So it makes it very, in every, situation, it makes it very obvious, but not like so much that, like they make the situation obvious enough where they point you in the direction of what you have to do, and it's not like, you're not, smacking yourself trying to figure out what is going on. You don't feel cheated, like I wouldn't be able to figure this out unless I had a guide or something. It's all easily picked up on without seeming like it's very easily picked up on.
Right, it's a puzzle. They give you everything you need to solve it up front. You just have to analyze the different patterns, see what's available to you, and then when you put it together, you're good. You kind of just blaze right through it.
One big thing I will say that I don't think either of us have mentioned at this point is the audio and the music in this game. The voice acting, I think, is pretty good for.
I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, given that it's and not so any NPC you just meet like out when you're playing they don't all speak. It's more based on cutscenes and whatnot. But as we said, it very quickly, it just smoothly goes right into cutscenes. So
the ones that are voiced are really well done, I think.
Mm-hmm. One big thing right on the title screen, like before you even get to the title screen, it gives you an option for 3 languages, which in 2003 for like those games.
I have 6 available.
Oh, okay. Well, just for the PS2 version, there's English, French, and Spanish, which I thought was fantastic because usually games, you just one language and that's it.
Well, Ubisoft is a French company.
Yeah, right.
So that one makes sense. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
So the audio itself, like the voice acting, solid. And you can subtitle it if you want, but it's not like a bad, because I feel like a lot of games there's a bad mix of like the sound effects of the music is way too loud, so you need subtitles. But this one it's decent enough. The voice actors, they're very crisp and clear, even the ones that might have accents or just based on the character.
Right.
So just the talking is good, and the characters aren't annoying to listen to. They don't constantly bicker on the world map. Like you have Paige following you around as a partner. He isn't constantly like throwing out one-liners. It's only in, you go into a battle, he's just, let me help you. You go up to an obstacle, it's either we need a key for this, we can't do it right now, or I got it. It's not an annoyance in any way.
Right. I feel like the only time he talks is when it's triggered by an event or when you tell him to do something.
Right. That, and then as far as the other audio goes, the actual music in the game, I will say, one, it's all over the place. There are so many genres and whatnot. The first few minutes of the game, there's like no music at all. There's the
Yeah.
battle scene you go through, and then after that, it's just kind of dead quiet. Um, but in the opening cutscene, like you can't, your lighthouse is under attack, and you can't put a shield up because you don't have enough money, you don't have enough credits to pay for whatever bills you have for the electricity. So it's all dead quiet. And then once you get money to turn the electricity on, there's like this soft piano music that fits the scene very well. And then, you go into racing modes. It's like, fast paced. There's Spanish singing, and it's just like really intense, like just quick pace, like almost punk rocky. And I don't know. The music's all over the place, but it's all very good. And there's a bunch of languages for a bunch of the music. It fits every piece of music I've heard so far fits the scene that it's in very well, and it doesn't. While the music is all over the place, it is never out of place for where it's at, I think.
Yeah, that's one thing I was gonna say. The music is all over the place, but in all the different genres, it's well represented in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they had more than one composer on here, but
So I actually looked that up. It is a composer. He actually did a lot of composing, like background music for films and whatnot.
Okay.
He was a French film composer. So he has a few credits for that. Yeah, so I mean, he definitely it was. I think it was a good fit because I feel like if any movie could be like, or if any game could be like, I mean, this is a very grand scale of a game. It could definitely be. It definitely has that film sort of quality to it in a way.
Yeah. It's a really great soundtrack, and it starts out as ambiance, but the really seamless transitions when you go into different shops and stuff. You don't really think about it, which is actually good.
It's not like a dead, like, this music stops and then the next one. It's not a dead cutoff. It's a very smooth transition, fade in, fade out, which is a nice. And actually, the music in the beginning, just the light piano that you hear on like your home island and in a few other places in like serene environments, it kind of reminded me of Breath of the Wild, just because it has that minimalist piano. It's just mostly environment sound with some light piano mixed in there, so it was a very calming feeling.
Yeah.
It was very good.
So I'm actually looking him up on IMDb. His name, I don't know how to pronounce it. Christophe Hiral.
Yeah,
I think, is
we'll
the
go with
composer?
that. I would say the same thing.
He only has, before this, about 6 credits before composing for Beyond Good and Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they started in 1989 all the way to 2001, and it's spotty between all of that. But yeah, I'm surprised. It's a really, really fantastic score. And at this part, and at this point in his career, I don't know if he's considered, kind of an amateur composer or what, but yeah, he's definitely punching well above his weight in this game.
Well, I mean, as far as what I read, I guess the creator, Michael Ansel, the creator and designer of this game, I guess, he was the creator of Rayman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this is obviously a big departure from Rayman. Obviously, Rayman is a lot more cartoony. I mean, it wasn't, as far as I read, this wasn't like a big team or anything. This was like, just a little section of Ubisoft that he wanted to try something new, and because he already had success in Rayman, he wanted to try something different and a much bigger scale, and they were like, all right. So as far as it was like an indie almost sort of thing out of the company. So I feel like just because that Christoph probably wasn't, super huge. You said he only has a few credits. That probably was the reason they were able to get him, as opposed to like, John Williams or something.
Yeah.
Super huge. I mean, John Williams might fit in this game, but
I think he would, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was probably easier to get a smaller time.
John Williams composes Star Wars, is his best known. But yeah, okay. So let's put a bow on this game because this is the first half of our discussion. Mm-hmm. So the big question is, when we come back here, what do you want to see from the game? And as of right now, how are you liking the game? Just quick quick comment, one line.
I very much like it, having no prior knowledge or bias of it at all. I mean, I'd only heard of it, and I didn't even see the trailer for the new one that they just dropped at E3 this year. So I have no idea what that looks like, and
I'll comment on that in a second. Yeah.
I don't want to even look at it until I finish the game, so I have a better, idea of what's going on in it. But I love it so far, and what I expect, just hopefully more of the same. I don't want any I don't want like a hard left turn where it goes into some weird gameplay element. I just want more of the same because it's very good, and I'm very happy with it.
Cool. So as for mine, I'm hoping to see a more expansive world in the next part. I'd like to know that I can go to those places. I also want to see a little bit more of the lore, which I'm sure we will because we're actually getting to the meat of the story. So far, I absolutely love this game. I'm expecting by the second half, if it continues this way, that I'll have a Beyond Good and Evil tattoo by the end of this. I'm really, really, really a fan of this so far.
I'm gonna write that down so I can ask you what your tattoo idea will be.
Right, just a camera, a jade holding your camera. But yeah, let me comment on the Beyond Good and Evil 2 trailer. I was actually very, very upset at this trailer during E3. I was watching it live. I was actually talking to Mike. I don't know during this particular one if I was talking to Mike. I think it released during the PS4 conference, but I'm not sure. But
didn't Ubisoft have their own?
Oh, yeah. Ubisoft does have their own. I'm a dummy. You're right. So I wasn't talking to Mike. But what bothers me about E3 is that it is broadcasted on a global scale. But every time Ubisoft has their conference, Aisha Taylor's like, I got no filter, la la la. And let me speak in memes and then just swear up and down and be like, well, Ubisoft doesn't want me to say this. Well, obviously Ubisoft doesn't want you to say that. Kids watch E3, you dummy.
Yeah.
I really liked Aisha Taylor as an actress until she started being the spokesperson for Ubisoft at E3. And then I was like, what did you do? You were like Mother Earth in some Santa Claus movie or something. But this trailer played at E3, and I hated it because every other word is the F word in this. And I'm like, come on, guys. Really? That's how you have to market it?
That's so weird.
That's the only impression I had of Beyond Good and Evil before we started playing this game. I was like, I won't let that throw me off of it. Like, I'll still give it a try. I'm an adult and I can hear those words, but right. I wouldn't be happy if I was because I would definitely watch E3 with my nephew if we were free that same day or something. And I would have been really upset had we been sitting there together watching that, and then every other word in that trailer is the F word. So
that's so weird to me because they're not exactly like holding back anything as far as the writing goes in the game, but it's never edgy enough that it needs that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that just sounds weird to me.
That's another reason I can't peg what the audience for this game was, the target audience was. But what I would say is, as far as my knowledge of the game so far, the trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2 does not spoil anything that I know of, and is phenomenally beautiful. And it really expands on this world it created. I believe that it is a game taking place in the same world, but might not have the same characters. But again, I don't really have that knowledge right now. But I would say that if you want to see the trailer, go watch the trailer, because you won't hurt yourself by doing it. Okay. But it is a really cool trailer if, to me, if it weren't the F word. And I don't have a problem with people swearing. But on like a global event, and it's every other word, it's annoying. Yeah. But so that was my initial impression of Beyond Good and Evil. I'm happy it has flipped the script for me. And now when I'm watching this trailer, I'm like excited. I hope I can still be excited and this doesn't turn into a Super Metroid situation for me. But yeah, I've been dying to get back to it. I had to pull myself away from it. So hopefully, what is it? Today is, this episode is airing on the 1st of December. Okay, we're done with the game discussion. We're just gonna, chill out for a second here. Happy belated to Thanksgiving to our American audiences. You were busy for Thanksgiving, yes?
Yeah, working retail, just living the dream.
You didn't do anything fun?
I ate 3 bowls of Fruity Pebbles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Ooh,
That was my Thanksgiving feast.
that was a blast. I had a different Thanksgiving for every bowl of cereal you had. It is quite annoying. But yeah, I don't know. I don't envy you.
I will say I got some good deals. Like I said, I picked up Titanfall 2 for $12, the deluxe edition.
Oh,
So.
you got that on Black Friday.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool. Very
So
cool.
I mean, it was super cheap. So it was a solid choice. I haven't played much of it yet, but I've enjoyed what I have played for
So,
$12.
A peek behind the curtain. Today the day we were recording, the Infinity War trailer just came out, and I've watched it at least once an hour at work,
That's
and
not
like
surprising to me at all.
goosebumps every time. I'm all kinds of into it. We won't, I'm not gonna beat people over the head with Marvel, but I'm unwinding here, and that is the only thing on my mind. So I'm glad this came after I've already played Beyond Good and Evil, or else I wouldn't be able to speak coherently to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a question for you that is unrelated to either of those two topics.
Okay, hit me.
I mean, you're musically oriented. I've always been a fan of music. I think I was born a 13-year-old girl and stayed that way until I was about 23 in terms of my musical tastes.
A lot of Pierce the Veil. So much Pierce the Veil.
Tons of it. I'm very upset right now. Well, let me get into that.
Okay.
This is something I haven't talked to anybody but Shelby about this. The drummer from Pierce the Veil is another one facing accusations that are going around right now.
Oh.
Yeah, and I've actually been taking that kind of hard. And it's tough because Pierce the Veil is my favorite band. It's been my favorite band since I was...
I mean, definitely
10
high
years
school.
ago. It's 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So I was 16. And it's been
as
my
far
favorite
as
band.
since the years we were living together, I think you saw them, as I remember, like maybe 6-7 times at that
Right.
point.
As of today, I've seen them 14 times.
My God.
I mean, I love again. I guess I was born a 13-year-old girl,
I mean,
which is fine. But
my
he's
favorite
facing-
band I've only seen 5 times. So
yeah,
you're
and I've seen your favorite band twice, I think. So, yeah, he's facing these charges, and I'm really conflicted. Like, they haven't even released a statement yet.
Mhm.
And as far as I know, it's a girl who came forward about this, his conduct, released a statement and pictures to back up what she was saying of their conversations, and then of some stuff that I shouldn't see pictures of. So it's like very clearly it was him.
Right.
But she said, to her knowledge, none of the band knew about it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it doesn't exempt them from any kind of trouble whatsoever. But the most disturbing part is that they still have yet to make a statement on this, and it's been slightly over a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's really been bothering me.
There's a I haven't been into Neck Deep for a long time, and I kind of regret that because like a lot of people have suggested them for years to me. But I guess early on in there, like right when they started to get big, one of their members was kind of, I mean, it was very obvious he exchanged some photos, and immediately when that came out, he's like, all right, I'm not going to jeopardize the band or anything. I'm going to leave because I've had a good run thus far. So I mean that he took very well. Hopefully it doesn't bring your favorite band to an end.
Right. My thing with this situation is I would love to see him out of the band because you need to take responsibility for your actions. And the biggest thing is that this is a band whose main following is a bunch of adolescent females. And by allowing this behavior to continue, you're saying, we don't really care if you do this. And you guys can be taken advantage of, and who cares? But it's further complicated by the fact that the drummer is facing these allegations. There's proof, so I don't really think we're past allegations now.
Yeah.
This happened.
Yeah.
This drummer who did this and is somebody, I've really liked for a long time, is also the brother to the singer Vic. So that's another layer of complication on top of it. You know, there's a family tie as well as being part of the same band. That's not the reason I started this conversation.
Okay.
But I'm really upset with that. I wish he would step down. I wish the band would make a statement, and he needs to be replaced because I think this is unacceptable. And I'm saying this as a 10-year diehard fan.
So diehard. Like, if anybody cannot believe how diehard he is, like, if there was a modern day equivalent to a Deadhead, Stone, like if he didn't want to have a successful life and a career and everything, he would definitely follow that band on tour in a dirty van doing God knows what just to see them.
This is too far. Like I on my desk right now I have a picture of me with the lead singer that I've folded down.
Yeah.
No,
I've probably seen that picture a lot.
Yeah, that's the first time I saw him. But no, that's not. The point I was saying is because, for a long time I think I've been a 13-year-old girl. I'm like, at what point in your life, because you're younger and then your tastes change. Like when you're a kid, you pretty much listen to what your parents listen to. Mm-hmm. And then you get your own sense of style and you listen to that music. And now I'm like having the second musical revolution. Like, at what ages does this stop happening? I want to keep listening to the music I'm listening to. I want to stop getting all new music. But, like, now it's like, you know, for a lot of time I was into, like, that hardcore, like, metalcore, like, the new kind of metal. Yeah. And I
remember trying to drown that out for
like,
a long time.
You know, I'm looking at my, you know, signed Day to Remember poster right now, Miss May I. And, you know, I'm still into those heavier types of bands. But now I'm into, like, new rap. Like, I'm all about, like, Kendrick Lamar and, like, Post Malone. And,
I
like,
was always
Future.
super staunchly against, like, rap and country. And not that I listen to country. I will never like
please,
that.
take it from me. We're not listening to... I'm just kidding.
Ever.
Everyone feels that you immediately need to defend the fact that you don't listen to country.
It's like, what kind of music do you listen to? Anything except country. Like, I feel like you either love country or you have to specify for half an hour straight that you absolutely hate country.
Right, you either only like country or everything but. Except Willie Nelson is acceptable. And Johnny Cash.
I think that's more... Well, one... As you know, you go through different phases. You like different types of music. That's totally evident. I mean, you probably remember. I had the longest Blink-182 phase and like ska phase and whatnot. And,
oh yeah, but
Blink-182
is great.
I still love pop punk and I still love Blink-182. And even though the last show we went to see, they weren't amazing. You know, I still love it.
Well, one member wasn't amazing. Yeah. The other two were phenomenal.
I'll listen to them until you bury me, and then I'll still have you play them. So, I mean, you still, obviously, the ones you like the most you hang on to, and you might, you know, weed out some songs that you've grown to dislike or what have you. I think, for me, what really got me into listening to more music is I would remember things that, like, friends mentioned, or, you know, like my best friend Josh, he loves jazz, and, like, you know, there'll be, like, newer bands that are more jazz-influenced, but are modern music, but they have those sort of, you know, like, heavy music theory influences, so they sound... very professional. Mm-hmm. And I think what really got me into that was because, you know, since I became a student again, I have Spotify Premium at a super cheap price.
Not sponsored, by the way.
Yeah, not. But I would absolutely, like, Spotify is, I absolutely love it. It's such an amazing service. And, you know, it's just allowed, you know, I've just been able to listen to a lot more music, and especially with, like, the Discover Weekly, probably one of the greatest things ever.
Yeah, every Monday.
So it's really...
Yep.
Otherwise, like before that, I'm going to say a few years ago is when I started, you know, delving more into different stuff, because I saw Chan on YouTube for the first time, and I don't even know why I was recommended, but it's just like, you know, videos you may like. I watched it, and I was like, this is going to change my life forever, and I've gotten into more like progressive, like, it's like progressive rock and like hardcore metal, but without the distortion, so it's all just really clean sounding, you know, guitar-driven music, and I've gotten into a lot of more of those bands.
So what?
But also,
I think I'm talking about something a little different than you.
Oh, okay.
So you were kind of talking about the progression into a genre and like taking branching paths. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about like I flipped 180. Like I was like, you know, listening to this metal with it was just me and a bunch of teenagers with a lot of angst, and then now I'm like Kendrick Lamar on repeat all the time. Mm-hmm. Like Post Malone, Future. I'm like in the new rap.
No, see,
And
the only rap I go to is like
don't say just 90s rap.
no, no, no. I mean, I'm nostalgic for that, but I can't think of what's his Anderson .Paak. I really like Anderson .Paak.
Okay. I don't know. I just wanted to know, maybe older listeners, when do I stop? When do I stop getting my musical taste changed? Can I just stay with what I have?
But that would get boring.
I want it to be boring. I got into it. You know, I used to hunt every day. New music, new music, new music. In high school, I still have, 30 gigs of music that I...
Just sitting around not being listened to.
Well, I am listening to it. But, I had to transfer it to Spotify now because that's what I listen to in my car because Google Play sucks. So, not being able to listen to our podcast on the go, I use Google Play for that, and I love it. For podcasting exclusively, but the app that works with Android Auto, which is what uses the screen in my car uses, it's terribly interfaced with the music on your phone. Mm-hmm. So I exclusively use Spotify. So I have like 30 gigs of music that just doesn't get used unless I look it up again on Spotify.
Which
so
is just tedious.
I'm just too stubborn to keep doing this. But that was all my question was, when does my music taste stop changing?
I'm going to say never.
So there you have it. All right, let's wrap this up. We got on too long.
Have we?
Yes, we have.
How long have we got on?
You guys know, this has been the Forgot to Save podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I have been Stone.
And I've been Regan.
And we will see you on December the 15th, a day after the release of Star Wars. I'm excited to see you then.
Wait, like the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Bro, December 14th. Get it right.
I honestly don't know the release date, and that's very bad of me.
I wish we were sponsored by Star Wars. Either way, I'll see you guys.
Good day.